In the past several years, there's been a huge hype around cryptocurrencies and the new wave of technology surrounding them. And there's a pretty good reason for this. However, 90% of new investors have absolutely no clue when it comes to two vital parts of the crypto space: security and privacy. My name is Z, and for the past 5 years I've been actively investing in trading in cryptocurrencies. And my two guiding principles have been: how can I make the most of this new opportunity? And also, how can I stay safe for the long run? The second principle is what we're going to discuss in detail in this online course. We will go through all the basic security and privacy principles that you need to know when trading and investing in cryptocurrencies. Some of these include how to choose the best crypto exchange for you and how to make sure that your accounts are as safe as possible. How to buy, set up and store hardware wallets. Also, we're going to discuss in detail what are the main security risks and how to prevent them. We are also going to discuss what is a good digital hygiene, including creating strong passwords, storing them, your behavior online, especially when browsing, how to manage your crypto accounts but also your different other accounts that may lead to security breaches, and also we're going to talk about offline security. We all have this false sense of security when it comes to our digital world. "It won't happen to me" is an expression that we all use all the time. The goal of this course is to make sure that this statement stays true. Before we dive deep, we need to make a differentiation between privacy and security. The two topics are very closely related, but they're actually quite different. Your Facebook account could be extremely secure. For example, you might have a very strong password, you might use two-factor authentication, and you might use a specific device just for scrolling on Facebook and you don't use it for anything else. But at the same time, this doesn't mean that your account has good privacy. Facebook knows a lot of things about you, including your email, maybe your phone, your friends, what you do, your photos, everything about you. And depending on your privacy settings, some other people might also have access to this information. Any private data that you store on your Facebook account or on any other account could be used against you in one way or another. It is very important not only to build good security habits, but also to manage your privacy. And of course, this covers all kinds of different websites and your accounts that you have and you need to manage. Somebody can use your personal data to know more about you and potentially hack your accounts and steal your cryptocurrencies. Everything that we're going to discuss in this class is not only directly related to your cryptocurrencies and your exchange account. There is a saying that should be your guiding principle when it comes to crypto security and privacy: the easier it is for you, the easier it is for hackers to get a hold of your personal data and potentially steal your cryptocurrencies. If you use very simple passwords, you store them in your browser, you don't use two-factor authentication, and you put your private data all over the internet, then you make yourself a lot more vulnerable to any kind of attacks. Of course, if you want to go down the rabbit hole of security, there are hundreds of things that you can do and will make you quite uncomfortable, but of course they're also going to make you quite secure. This is not the goal of this class. I'm going to tell you what are the basics that you need to follow that are not so difficult and won't disturb your comfort, but also are going to protect you from around 90% from all the risks out there. We know there are many risks out there on the internet, but what exactly are those risks and how can they affect us? And most importantly, how can we protect ourselves from them? This is what we're going to discuss in this section. We're going to look into the most common type of cyber attacks, and we're going to start with one of the most popular, which is phishing. That's right, the term comes from actual phishing because somebody on the internet are going to try to lure you in to click on a link to provide some personal data or stuff like this. The typical phishing attacks come from either an email or a message that you're going to receive from a friend, or maybe even an ad on an untrusted website. For example, you might receive an email that looks very official and it's from your bank and they're asking you to do something right away. Maybe there was a security breach or something that they need from you in order not to block your account. They're always going to ask you for something urgent. The attacks that come from your friends are also quite difficult because you might receive a message if your friend has been under attack and he or she has clicked already on a phishing link. The hackers might actually start sending out messages on Facebook, and since it's from your friend, you might trust it right away and click on the website and get attacked. There are usually several signs of a phishing attack. First and foremost, they're going to ask you to provide some kind of personal data. There might be a link to the website that looks exactly like, for example, your crypto exchange, but it's not. And you might be asked to log in right away because there's been a security breach or whatever. And this way, they're going to be able to record your keystrokes and later use your password to log into your actual crypto account. You might also be asked to provide some personal data like your ID number or your address or anything else that later might be used against you. There are several ways to protect yourself against a phishing attack. And first of all, you don't have to respond right away to any kind of messages. Trust me, your bank or your friends will never ever ask you in a hurry to provide them with some kind of information. And if you receive a message from a friend, just simply call him or her and check if the message that you have received is legit or not. And if you receive an email, the very telltale sign is that if you look into the actual email address, it won't be exactly the same as the original. So for example, it won't be at binance.com. It will be something completely different. And this means that definitely this is some kind of a phishing attack. Also, make sure you check the URL because they won't have access to the original URL of your exchange or your bank or whatever. And if they're asking you to click and there's maybe a spelling mistake in the URL or in the actual message, this is also pretty clear that this is some kind of a phishing attack. I believe that social engineering is probably one of the most dangerous ways that you can get hacked or scammed. The scammers are extremely creative and they always think of new ways to maybe steal your personal data or get access to your personal files and rob you of something. And it's very dangerous because they are actually very good and they hit you with emotions. So for example, if you're watching your favorite YouTuber, you might have seen this. Somebody in the comments below looks exactly like this person, same photograph, same name, but they're asking you to send them an SMS or an email in order to participate in some kind of grand event or you win an award or something like this. Another extremely dangerous way of scamming people is actually to making a connection with them. For example, making them fall in love. This might happen on a dating website or even on Facebook. And we all need this kind of an emotional relationship. And if somebody is really determined, they can really make you fall in love with this person. And if you're someone that works in, for example, PayPal or Twitter or any kind of a crypto exchange, and you have access to a lot of valuable information, later, after a few weeks, even after a few months, they can ask you some questions or they can directly just brute force their way into your laptop or any of your files and use this information against you or against the people that are customers of the company that you work for. Also, another popular way for social scammers is to just give you a call. There are entire call centers in India, for example, where they just simply have the book and they call random numbers and they play the same trick that somebody bought something on the internet and you need to return this money, or that you have won something and you need to provide them with some personal information, or you need to go through these steps on a specific website, and this is the way they get a hold of your account information and later they can rob you from your cryptocurrencies or anything that has value. To be honest, I don't really know how we can protect ourselves from such kind of scams. Basically, just we should use our common sense, and if something looks suspicious or somebody's really pushy and trying to take advantage of you, just be very cautious. Scammers get better and better in social engineering, and in this video I just wanted to give you a quick update about something that I came across. You know that in all crypto projects nowadays, they all have communities on either Discord or Telegram. And keep in mind, these two apps are not the most secured. So pretty much somebody has hacked the Discord channel of a popular gaming project, and they sent a message that they are minting a special one-off NFT, and it will cost 1 Ethereum or 0.1 Ethereum, and a lot of people fell for it because it was in the official announcement page of the Discord channel of this project. So you can imagine there are like thousands of people following those announcements, and they all are playing the game, so they're already hooked to the project, and they're ready to send this little amount of ETH to this address and to get the opportunity to have this unique NFT or whatever. And a lot of people fell for it. The official announcement said that there was like 450 ETH that was stolen. The announcement was sending people not to the official site of the project, but to a .org website, which sounded legit. You know, if it was me, probably I would have also clicked and opened it. But just be very, very careful when you're clicking on things and when somebody is requesting money or personal data from you. That's the key giveaway. Even if it's a legit thing, even if there's a chance that you're gonna miss on something, just be sure to double check it. Don't be one of the first ones to click and send the money or give your personal data, because pretty much nobody wants personal data or money from you. So the risks are high. Just be safe, guys. And if you have any questions, let me know, send me a message and I'll try to respond. Physical security is something that I've dedicated a full section on, but here I just wanted to discuss the risk of somebody actually stealing stuff from you. Maybe somebody will break into your apartment, or if you're traveling, somebody might attack you on the airport, or maybe if you're using public transport, or if you go in a country where there's a really high risk and the crime rate is really high. If you're like me and you live in a country that is generally considered safe, you might kind of forget about this, especially when you're traveling. But I think it's a really very important thing, because if somebody steals something from you, and if this something is your phone, for example, you stand the risk of the person getting access to pretty much all of your life. As I mentioned in a later section, we're going to get a lot more in detail on how to protect yourself and how you can prevent physical theft. Data breach is another quite popular security risk. This means that a company gets hacked and a hacker has access to their database. This can happen through, for example, brute force. They might get access to their servers, or through social engineering if they get access to a high-level employee and they make him or her fall in love or give out private information. And later they can use this information against the employees, but also they can use it against the people that are using the platform. And that is very important, because you might ask yourself, okay, I don't really work for a company like Twitter or Binance, and I don't really have friends that work there. How does this affect me? Well, if you're using these services and if you have a lot of private data on their websites, well, chances are that these people can use this information later on to access your accounts and steal your data and your cryptocurrencies. Personally, you cannot protect against this kind of a data breach, but what you can do is to go over all of your accounts and first of all, delete any of them that you don't really use, but also go through all the privacy settings and make sure that these companies don't have a lot of information about you. We're going to dive a lot deeper into this subject in a later video. There is an ongoing discussion for and against antivirus software. On one hand, they can protect you from different viruses, but on the other hand, this program has access to all your files on your computer. I'm not going to get involved in this discussion, but I just wanted to share with you what exactly is a virus and also how you can actually get affected with a virus. First of all, there are all kinds of viruses like Trojan horses, spyware, malware, and so on. Their main purpose is basically to install something on your computer that they can, for example, record your keystrokes, or they can access all your files, or any other kind of information and anything that you do privately on your computer. And later, of course, they can use this information against you. If you're going to get a virus really depends on your behavior on the internet. For example, if you visit websites that are not well known and are some kind of scammy, and you click on their banners or anything, they might install some kind of a virus on your computer. Or if you're using peer-to-peer downloading, and if you're downloading illegal software through torrents, they can also come with a nasty surprise in the form of a virus. Also, if you go on unofficial websites to download any kind of software, this could also be a risk. Overall, it's up to you to decide if you want to use an antivirus program. I know that Windows has a pretty decent antivirus built into it, but if you simply avoid visiting weird websites and downloading random files on the internet, I think you will be fine. You know how when you lose your phone, you need to call your operator so they block your SIM card and you can later on go to the office and have a brand new SIM card? Well, in some countries, this could be done by somebody else, and it's what it's called SIM swapping. There are two main ways to swap your SIM card. First of all, somebody might call your operator and present themselves like you. So if they have some private information about you, that the operator can confirm that this is actually this person. They can give them access to your SIM card, and at some point you might be looking at your phone and you suddenly lose signal and you cannot make any calls. This might mean that somebody has called and swapped your SIM card, and now they might have access on their empty SIM card, and on their device they might have your phone number and they can receive and make calls. The second way to SIM swap is basically if a hacker has a person in the mobile operator and maybe they're paying them off on the side and they give them access to do some kind of operations, or the employees do it for them, well, this will have exactly the same result. There are a few ways you can protect yourself from SIM swapping. I don't really think in some countries you can actually do this, but for sure in America, for example, you can definitely suffer a SIM swap. First of all, contact your mobile operator and make sure that nobody has access or can make such changes over the phone. Or even if they can do this, you need to have some kind of a secret word that only after you name this word, they do any kind of changes to your SIM card. The second thing that you can do is to give your personal number to as little people as possible. Unless it's necessary, you just don't leave it on websites or anything else where there might be a data breach. SIM swapping is quite dangerous, especially if you're using two-factor authentication with an SMS. Basically, somebody can go through the process of resetting your password either via an SMS or a link sent to your phone, and they can directly have access to your account and anything inside of it. That is everything for this section, and in the next one we're going to dive really deep into the digital security principles that you have to follow in order to stay safe. Around 90% of all security breaches come from weak or stolen passwords. Imagine this: just by taking care of your passwords and constructing good and strong passwords, you can protect yourself from most of the threats out there. Now, what exactly makes a password a strong one? Obviously, you have to forget anything about your name of your parents, girlfriend, your dog, your birth of date, and all the other relevant information that could be found somewhere online about you. You don't have to use those words when you're building passwords. Each password needs to be at least 12 to 14 characters long, and it needs to include small letters, big letters, numbers, and also special signs. This is as a minimum. Of course, if you want to, you can include all kinds of other signs too. I know that this is going to bring your comfort level way down, but it's necessary. A computer can guess an 8-letter password in just a second, so you need to make sure that you really have good passwords. Of course, you have to use different passwords for all the different websites out there. Don't just use one password. It's a terrible idea. And also make sure you change your passwords regularly. So around 3 to 6 months, you need to change your passwords. Let me give you a couple of examples of good passwords that you can create. It's better to avoid all kinds of words that could be in a password dictionary or in the dictionary for this sense, and any kind of long sentences that make sense to guess easily. For example, life is wonderful is a terrible password, although it's quite long. One technique that you can use is to go on a names dictionary and just pick random first name and surnames from different people, the most random that you can find, and just make a sequence of them and then add special characters, big letters, small letters, and of course numbers. Another strategy that you can use when building passwords is if you know a different language, for example, my mother tongue is Bulgarian, I might think of a sentence or a few words or a few names in Bulgarian, and I can type them with English letters and then include all the special signs and so on. Now that you have gone through the process of building great passwords, you have to store them. Obviously, the best way to do this is to memorize them, but if you're someone like me, that is close to impossible, especially when you have so many different accounts nowadays for all the different things that you do. A great way to store passwords is on a piece of paper. Yes, I know it's old school and it has its own risk, but trust me, if it's offline, it's much less riskier than if you store your passwords on your browser or somewhere on your computer. Actually, never ever store your passwords on your browser or just type them in a kind of a piece of paper on the cloud or any other location that could be easily accessed. A long time ago, I used to store all my passwords on Google, and sometimes I would receive these messages that there has been a security breach and somebody has got a hold of my passwords, which is terrible. It's not something that I've done wrong, but there has been a leak either in Google or some other company, and now they know my passwords, my accounts, and I think this is probably the worst way to store your password. I know it's the easiest and I've done it, but it's also the easiest for the hackers. If you still decide to store your passwords digitally, I would recommend using a special password manager. There are many password managers, but I think the most important feature is for the software to be open source. I could definitely recommend KeePass, and also the file with your passwords is encrypted. So whenever if somebody steals it or something happens to this file, they will have a hard time to break into it. And also you need to create a strong password for your password manager. So this is the one that you need to memorize. This is the one that at least you don't need to write anywhere or anything, and just make sure that you memorize it, because that is the key to all of your other passwords. Another trick that you can use once you have used a password manager to generate and to store your passwords, you can use some kind of a keyword in the password. So for example, if this is your password, you can add at the end something like a microphone or some random word that you know that you add to a password that has already been saved in your pass manager. After generating strong passwords, the second most important thing is to enable two-factor authentication. Now, what exactly is this? Basically, when you're logging into a website, and all of the crypto exchanges have this, you type in your username and your password, and after that, they're going to ask you to enter a 6-digit code that is generated either through an SMS, through a second device, or through a hardware token. This is a must-have extra layer of security. So if somebody steals your password, they still need these codes in order to log into your account. As I mentioned, there are 3 types of two-factor authentication. The worst is SMS, but it's better than not having two-factor authentication. But as I mentioned, there's the risk of SIM swapping, and I think if you can, you should avoid 2FA with SMS. The best known and probably the most comfortable one that will not cause you a lot of trouble is using a 2FA app. There are plenty of them out there, and you install it on your phone, and basically once you're logging in, you also need to have your phone around and it will generate a random code for you and you need to plug it in. The third way, and probably the safest, is having a hardware token. I suggest using this for different exchanges that carry the most value for you, but also maybe for the bank accounts that you use, but something that you don't really use every day, because if you have to carry this every single day with you, it will be a little bit tricky. You should enable two-factor authentication in all of your accounts that this is available, not only on your crypto exchanges, but also on your Google account, Facebook, and any other important accounts that you have. If you decide to go with a 2FA app, just make sure to write down the codes whenever you're signing in the actual 2FA, because these codes are your backup codes. So for example, if you lose your phone or somebody steals it or something happens, you need to have a backup of those codes, because even if you know your password, you will not be able to get into your account unless you have your 2FA. Also, it's really important to store these backup codes in a different location than your passwords. If you have your password manager with all your passwords and all your backup codes for your 2FA, you stand the risk if there's a leak or somebody gets an access to all your passwords, they will also have the backup code. So it will make them very easy to enter your account and do whatever they want. Another way to create backup is to have a second device, so a second phone that you use only for 2FA, and you have all the backups there. This way, if you lose your phone, you will easily have access to your other phone and to your codes. Another trick that I can share with you is if on your phone you have some kind of a hidden folder. I know some phones have this feature. You can put your 2FA apps and maybe also your trading apps and all the other important stuff in there. So even if somebody steals your phone and they're not really geeky and are not really hackers, they might have a hard time finding those apps within your phone. I wanted to add an additional remark for your 2FA on your crypto exchanges. Many exchanges will offer you the option to have both 2FA with an app and an SMS, and they will be switchable, so you might use one or the other. And when you are on the security page of your crypto account, you see this and you're like, oh, that's a security feature, I want to add it. I want to have as many features as possible that will secure my account, which is correct to think, but in this way, in the context of 2FA with SMS, I think that's the wrong approach, because this means that somebody that hacks your phone via a SIM swap or something else will have access to your account even without your 2FA app. So it kind of defeats the purpose of using an app instead of an SMS. Just be careful with this. Make sure that you don't enable the SMS 2FA, and I think you'll be fine. Most people have their email accounts with Gmail, Yahoo, or Hotmail. While these are very easy to use and very popular, they're not the safest when it comes to security and privacy. These companies have access not only to your personal data, but also to all your emails. I would strongly recommend to use end-to-end encryption service for your email. This will add an extra layer of security, and especially when you're trading and when you're registering with different crypto exchanges, I would suggest to use such kind of an email account. Also, if you still decide to keep your general Gmail account, for example, you can create a backup email that is actually end-to-end encrypted. That would add a little bit of extra security on that account. If somebody tries to break in, you will have the recovery email, which will be a little bit safer. Also, whichever you choose to be your recovery email, please don't save the password anywhere, not in your password manager, anywhere. Just remember, this is just one of those passwords, like your password manager password, that you need to remember, because if you store it somewhere and somebody has access to this, they might easily break in to your recovery email, and from there they might have access to everything that you do, because they might go through the process of resetting your password and then just typing in their own passwords and entering in your account with ease. Another layer of extra security that you can add is to have different emails, different accounts for different purposes. So one for shopping websites, one for social media, and different accounts for your crypto exchanges. I think the best option is to have end-to-end emails for all your accounts. So you have different emails for your different exchanges, your different social media. But of course, that wouldn't be the most comfortable thing. But it will definitely be the safest, because if somebody gets a hold of one of your accounts and one of your emails, they won't have access to the others. Cloud services have made our lives a lot easier. You can store important documents on the cloud, your photos, you can make friends online, and in general, they just provide the infrastructure for a life in the 21st century. The most common ones are Google, obviously. Apple has an incredible infrastructure, and also Facebook for the social media is very, very strong. However, these companies are not well known for their security and privacy. They will use your data to target you in different kind of campaigns, and also there has been numerous security breaches where outside people of the organization will have access to either your photos, your accounts, your phone numbers, and anything else that you store on the cloud. Obviously, the safest option will be to un-Google and un-Facebook our lives, but I realize this is extremely hard, and me personally, I'm not ready to do this. But there are still few things that you can do in order to make sure that these companies have less data about you and that you make your accounts a little bit more secure. Let's jump into the computer, and I'm gonna show you a couple of examples for Facebook and Google. This is a dummy Google account that I have, and I just want to walk you through some of the most important features and things that you need to be aware of. First of all, everything that's in here, Google knows about you, so you need to be aware of this. And if we go to the first tab on personal information, you'll see that obviously you need to have your name, your date of birth. By the way, I don't know, once I started recording the whole course, I'm repeating birth of date instead of date of birth. I'm sorry about this, guys, but anyway, also your gender, your password, and so on, so on. So this is information that you need to provide if you're using this email for official communication. But for example, the date of birth, I'm having mixed feelings, because they're probably going to use this data for something. So if you feel okay with it, you might even put a fake birthday here. Also, you have your contact info, and as you can see here, I haven't put any phone number, and it asks me to add a recovery phone, which I won't do, and I don't want to do, because remember, if somebody swaps your SIM, they can get access to your Google account, and if you have other things that are linked to this account, so once they steal your phone and they know your email, they can reset the password. And then if you use this email for something else, like as a recovery email, they will be also able to access this just from stealing your phone. So this is a no-go for me. I would never share my number with Google. If we go on the second tab that says data and personalization, you see that there's a lot of activity controls here. And first of all, the location history is stopped right now, but also you can stop the tracking for your web and app activity, and also for your YouTube history. I would definitely recommend to do this. This is probably the default settings, but you can, just to have an idea how much they track about you, you can look into your activity if you go to my activity, and you can see that everything that you do on your account is basically stored. So if somebody gets access to this data, even if it's not Google, even if they don't use it to target you with ads or something, if somebody that is a hacker enters into the Google Cloud, they will be able to see everything about you. So I would definitely recommend turning off any kind of activity. Maybe you might have some issues when you're on certain websites, but you can test this and you'll see that I don't think it's a big loss. I think this is a lot more riskier than just not being able to enter some websites. If we go in the security tab, you can here see your most recent activity, and also very important, signing into Google, you can see here that you have your password. Obviously there you can change it, use your phone as a signing, and also use two-step verification. So obviously you need to enable two-step verification because this is the safest way to your Google account, and also use your phone to sign in. This is it's similar. There's Google have a separate way of a two-factor authentication, and it basically, whenever you log in, if you're logged on also on your Android device, they will show you a message, was this you? And if you click yes, this is again like a two-step verification. So if you feel like it, you can enable it. A little bit further down here, you can see the ways that Google can verify if this is you. So if somebody's tried to break in, again, you can have a recovery phone, which we already discussed, and the recovery email. So here you can put your recovery email that you don't write down your password, you remember it, and also that it's an end-to-end encrypted email. So this is also a very important feature to enable, and also to have the proper email in here. If we go a little bit further down here, you can also see there's the password manager, your Google sign-in, linked accounts, and so on. It's worth deleting all the data from here, from the password manager, because if Google is storing some passwords and you might not even know it, you'll be able to see it here and you can delete them. Also, if you have ever used your Google account to enter to some kind of a service, so creating a different account, for example, with a meditation app or some kind of online learning platform and so on, you will be able to see it here. And if there are some kind of apps that you don't want anymore to be linked, you can obviously unlink them from here, because this means that this app also has some kind of information about you. These are the most important things that you need to be aware of in your Google account, and in the next video, let's go over Facebook settings. Facebook also stores a lot of information about you. It's not only your photos and everything that you share publicly, but also a lot of information in the background, similar to Google. So if you go to your Facebook account and to settings, which is right here, settings and privacy, you should do a proper checkup on everything that Facebook knows about you. Once you're in the settings, the first thing that you need to consider, if you're going to use your actual real name on Facebook, you might use an alias or some other kind of random name. Facebook doesn't require you to have your actual name, and if you use this only to communicate with friends, they already know you, that this is you, so maybe it's a good idea to not even share your real name. If we go on the security and login tab, this is the most important probably, because first of all, you can set up your password, obviously, you can enable two-factor authentication, and if you click on it, here you're going to see the type of two-factor authentication that we already discussed. So best for me is an app. So this one is, I think, relatively easy and also the most secure. And the thing that you need to avoid, obviously, is an SMS authentication. Just like Google, you can use your Facebook account to log into many different applications, and that's why also you need to go over these settings and check if there are other apps connected to your Facebook account and they have information about you. So if there are any unwanted apps, you need to remove them from the list. Facebook also have some extra security measures. You can get alerts whenever there's an unrecognized login. You should definitely enable this. On the next tab, which is your Facebook information, I think this is very interesting and you should definitely go over it. This is basically all the information that Facebook collects about you. And if you go over each of the sections, you might find very, very interesting things, and you will not be able even to imagine the amount of data that they store. So this is very important. You can see your activity log, maybe if they're tracking you off Facebook, so whenever you're not using Facebook. And of course you can deactivate and delete the information, or even your account, if you're not a fan of Facebook, or if you're not a huge user of Instagram, which is also part of Facebook, you can definitely do this. Under the privacy tab, you need to do a few settings here. So first of all, who is going to be able to see whatever you post or any kind of activity that you have. So maybe you don't want people outside of your friends network to be able to add you. You can change this here. Maybe you don't want any kind of public posts to be shared, so you share things only with your friends. Maybe you don't want anyone to see anything about you, so you can also adjust this here. If you click on manage your profile, and you know how people like to post a lot of things about themselves, like where they work, university, high school, and so on, so on. I would recommend just avoiding this and not even hiding it from everyone. So you might add your university, but you make it visible only to you, because still Facebook will have information about you and somebody can use it, or they might use it to target you in some certain way, or if Facebook gets hacked, they might use this information in many different ways depending on how much you have shared. So I would recommend don't share any kind of information here on the about page. Interestingly, Facebook also have your location history if you have turned it on. So I'll definitely recommend keep it off and don't ever turn it on, because this means they know even more about you than they're actually showing you on your profile. That is everything for this video. I hope these two last videos were helpful. They were not directly related to cryptocurrencies, but trust me, all this information that somebody can find out about you from different sources, they can use later in order to break into your crypto accounts and do all kinds of unpleasant things. In this video, I want to share with you a couple of browsers that I believe are the safest and also the most private when it comes to internet browsing. The first one is Brave. This one is built on Chromium, which is basically the platform of Google Chrome. So if you're using a Chrome browser, I would definitely recommend check out Brave and see if this fits you, but it's pretty much similar. I've been using Brave for most of my browsing, and it has some pretty cool features, and at the same time is keeping you much safer than Chrome, which is a Google browser, so you can imagine they store all kinds of data for you. The first thing that I want to point out is that Brave is also launching a search engine, which is great because I'm guessing that will be a private, and here it says it. It's going to be a privacy search engine, which is great because Google, it's not the most private. Also, Brave is a huge part of the crypto community. You can collect the rewards in the form of BAT, which are credited to your account whenever you decide to see ads from the actual browser. And it's, I think, a pretty cool way to reward people for using the browser, for watching ads, and also for gaining some cash on the site and being part of the crypto community. The other browser that I can definitely recommend, and it's probably the safest once you make a few tweaks on it, is Firefox. And I actually use Firefox as an example to go over in some of the settings in each browser, whichever browser you choose. I think it's worth going through the settings and make sure that some of the privacy and security settings are enabled. So let's just go over some of these, and this is in Firefox. So if you just click here on the top right corner and you go to settings, you have this pop-up, and pretty much most browsers have the same style. First of all, you can go to the home settings. So this is the general ones, but here you don't have that many things that you can adjust except for the Firefox updates. First of all, make sure that they're automatically. So this means you always have the newest version and you're not bothered with it. Also, you can obviously check for updates manually. If you go to the search part, here you can enable a different search engine as a default one. Right now it's Google, but I want to change it, for example, to DuckDuckGo, which is another privacy browser. This is the only important setting that you need to fix here. Also, in privacy and security, this is the most important. You can have different levels of security you can choose in Firefox. So here now it's on the standard one, and you can see what it includes, but also you can enable a strict version. So I would definitely recommend to do this. Here it says there might be a risk that some websites will not display certain content, but I think that's actually cool. You'll be able to see whenever you have the strict thing, which are the websites that probably are tracking you a little bit more than you want to. Here also you can have another important option, which is send websites do not track signal. You should enable this to always on. Also on the cookie side, you need to enable delete cookies after Firefox closes. So you need to do this, and of course you can clear the data. If you haven't done this before, you can clear your cookie data, and once you have enabled this tick here, after each following login and logout of Firefox, you have a clean slate. The next thing that you need to disable is the logins and passwords. So basically this is whenever if you have saved, or if you want to save some password, the browser asks you automatically. Here you should leave this. So if you have already saved some passwords on the browser and you delete them, but they will also inform you if you have some kind of a breach on some kind of website. They will inform you if your password has been leaked. If you go a little bit further down, we don't want Firefox to collect any data, so I would obviously remove this. And also here on security, if they see some kind of dangerous content, obviously you want to leave this on. Also here down, there's an HTTPS only mode, so the S stands for security, for SSL certificates on the website, which I think is a must in the 21st century, and it provides extra security. And if you're visiting websites that are missing the S, you need to double check this. Whenever you're checking the URL, just look if they have an S at the end. You can just enable this, and it will tell you if there is something wrong with the website and if it's a missing DS. So that's a really cool feature that you should enable. In addition to all those settings, you can add a few add-ons on the actual Firefox browser, which will help you to keep yourself a little bit more secure. The first one is uBlock Origin, and it's pretty obvious. Finally, an efficient spectrum of content blocker. This means that it's not going to block ads in specific, but it's going to block many other different things. And here you can see in detail what exactly is blocking. And it's a great way to make sure that you don't have some kind of trackers that you don't want and you're not even aware of. You can go through the screens here and see that, just an example from Business Insider, that there's some content that has been blocked from any kind of scripts that are third-party scripts. We don't know how in this case, Business Insider operates, so they might be sharing information with others. And this will let you know, and actually will block all kinds of scripts like this. A great addition to this is Decentralize. Pretty cool name. This is another add-on that protects you against tracking through free centralized content delivery. This is a little bit more complex to explain, but it makes a great addition to the uBlock add-on. Another one that I think is a must is Privacy Badger, and this one automatically learns to block invisible trackers. So stuff that you're not aware of that might be connected to the website or to the URL, the Privacy Badger will take care of it. And you can see it's 1 million downloads and it's recommended, so it's a pretty cool extension. Clear URL is the last one, and this one removes any tracking elements from the URL. You know how you click on some kind of a link, which is a recommendation from maybe a YouTuber or an Instagrammer. If you click on such kind of URL, but you don't actually want to be tracked, this is a perfect add-on. However, if you want to support your favorite YouTuber or influencer or whatever, you should disable this or use a different browser, because this way, if you want to buy, for example, a book that he recommends, or maybe clothes that he recommends, they won't be able to get the commission. So, this is something, if this is something important for you, I think it's worth keeping an eye on. When it comes to internet browsing, there are a few things that you can do to stay on the safe side. For example, the first and most important thing that you need to do is to bookmark all of your most important links. For example, your crypto exchanges, your social media accounts, and anything that is important for you. Because if you type the crypto exchange, for example, into Google, there might be an ad which is a scam, or there might be results that show that look, for example, just like Binance, but they're not the actual thing. They might use a different letter in the URL, and they just can scam you and steal your password. Always check the name of the link that you're visiting, and if, for example, you haven't bookmarked it already, you can double check if this might be a website that is trying to steal your data. In general, I would suggest to avoid any kind of random websites that you don't really know. Visiting them just increases the risk. There might be scammers, they might be people that will install some software on your computer, or just phishing links that will later get your password and so on. So in general, use your common sense when browsing and stay away from websites that don't look legit. Nowadays, pretty much every single website that you're going to visit is going to require you to sign in. So you need to create a username and a password, which obviously need to be strong. But then within all of those accounts, that might be, for example, websites that you sell something online, and or that you browse through like a forum or something, it's not always necessary to leave your real phone number, name, or email. And as I mentioned in one of the previous videos, you can have a dedicated email for websites like this, so you can register yourself with this email. And of course, you don't always need to use your real name, and if they don't require you to have a phone number or any other important information about you, like your birth date, you can just skip or lie, basically just put a different date, and just don't provide more information to those websites. When it comes to using different websites and applications on your phone, minimalism will be your best friend. So just make sure you're visiting as less as possible websites, or you're using minimal number of apps. Every single app on the phone is a security risk. However, if you still decide to have a huge number of applications on your phone, for example, make sure that you update them regularly, because every once in a while these apps receive updates and they're mostly related with the security. So for example, there has been a hack discovered, or there has been some update that they know about, and they roll a security measure that is new for the app, and you need to install it in order to be protected. And of course, you need to do this for every single app on your phone, and also for your phone and for your laptop. So you need to always have the latest version of Windows or iOS or Android or whatever you're using. If you have decided to go on the road and use an antivirus program, the same goes for it. Just keep it updated. There are all kinds of viruses popping up all the time, and the job of an antivirus program is to stay on top of them and always update the list of viruses and protect you from all of them. In order to make sure you stay up to date, just enable automatic updates on every device that you have. I also regularly, just maybe like once a week, I go manually into the App Store and check for updates, and just update manually all the apps that haven't been updated. I think nowadays everyone should be using a VPN when connecting to the internet. Now, what exactly is a VPN? This is a service that makes private your IP address and also your browsing activity. There are many different services out there that provide VPN. I think you should do your own research. I'm going to include some of my favorites in the checklist. but definitely there are differences that you need to consider, and it's worth a while to do the research and choose the best one that suits you. One very important thing that you have to look for is if the VPN service can actually see your traffic and your data, and also if they have any security breaches in the past. You need to stay away from those services. I would always prefer a VPN that doesn't know anything about you, so they don't record your traffic or know any of your IPs or browsing activities. Also, a very important feature to look for is a kill switch. Basically, this is a switch that if you are not connected to your VPN, it doesn't let access to the internet. Also, I would strongly recommend to stay away from public networks, especially when it comes to trading and investing in cryptocurrencies or just logging in any of your most important accounts. There might be somebody connected to the Wi-Fi network that records your keystrokes and can spy on you, and you don't really want to do this. So whenever you're visiting a cafe or maybe a hotel and you're staying longer, I would recommend just to use your cellular data if you have a good package, and if you don't, just avoid doing any trading activities, even if you're using a VPN. Crypto exchanges are one of the most, if not the most important part of the cryptocurrency ecosystem. But of course, they have their own risks. And in this video, I want to discuss two specific risks. First of all, there's the personal risk. So everything that we have already discussed extensively, you need to take as measures to protect yourself from hackers that are going to target your crypto accounts. So building strong passwords, enabling 2FA and all the other things, plus also enabling all kinds of safety features that are built in and are specific for the different exchanges. We're going to look into this a little bit more in detail in a video of this section. The second type of risk is third-party risk. Basically, whenever you are in an exchange and you do your trading or your investing, you are in agreement with the crypto exchange that it is going to store your coins, and whenever you want to withdraw them, they will allow you to do so, and they will transfer it to your personal wallet. That is great news, but if the exchange actually gets hacked from one of those methods that we already discussed, like social engineering or phishing or anything else, the hackers will be able to take away all the coins that the crypto exchange is actually storing, and this means they can also steal your own private coins. There is a website that tracks all the hacks that happen on different exchanges, and I think it's a great idea to look into it before you choose your own exchange. There's not much that you can do to kind of protect yourself from a hack, but you can diversify your risk and just choose exchanges that are relatively safe and have good history with hacks, actually without any hacks. You need to do a proper amount of research before choosing a crypto exchange. If you have already chosen one, I think it's still a great idea to go over the list that we're going to discuss in this video to make sure that your crypto exchange is good enough and safe enough. First of all, as a general rule of thumb, I will stay away from any kind of exchange that doesn't let me send my coins to a different address. This means that the exchange is actually speculating with the price, and you don't know where your cryptocurrencies are, and actually you don't own any of them. The easiest way to check this is to go on your exchange and to see if you have the option to send and or to receive different cryptocurrencies. If you don't have this option, my advice will be to just close all your position and move your cash to an exchange that allows you this service. Second of all, I will stay away from small exchanges. This means that if something happens to the owner or to the team, if it's small enough, you might not ever see your coins. Also, make sure that each exchange that you decide to use has a good track record, has some VC funding, some people behind it. This means that they're more secure. There are a lot of research that has been done for this exchange to function, and generally these tend to be a little bit safer. I would strongly recommend also to go on this website and check if the exchange that you have right now or you're looking into has any hacks in the past of years. This is quite obvious, but if an exchange has been hacked in the past, there's a pretty good chance that maybe they will be hacked in the future. So I would definitely stay away from those. Also, when it comes to choosing an exchange, you don't have to pick just one. Actually, my advice is to pick at least three and maybe even five or six, depending on the volume that you're trading. In combination with your hardware wallets that we're going to discuss in the next section, this will make for a very good diversification of risk. Imagine this, if you have just one or two exchanges, and one of them gets hacked, this means that your account, your entire portfolio, or like 50% of your portfolio might just disappear, and this could be career ending for you. On the other side, if you have 5 or 6 different exchanges plus your hardware wallets, this means that your risk is around 10 or 15 or 20%. And actually, a key question to ask yourself whenever you're going through this process is, what is the maximum amount that I'm willing to lose or to risk within an exchange? This question will guide you and help you choose the exchanges that you want to use and also how many of them you want to use. Another very good reason to have several different exchanges is that in times of volatility, some of the exchanges go down. I know this is weird, and after more than 10 years in the crypto space, this shouldn't happen, but even big exchanges like Coinbase and Kraken, lose access in times when the market goes up and down within few hours. This means that you won't be able to actively trade and execute trades, and this can happen in a crucial moment for any of your position. So if you have several exchanges, the chances are that one of them or some of them will work properly and you will be able to execute your orders. Once you have shortlisted your crypto exchanges and you have created accounts with them, I will strongly recommend to go into the security section of each of them and just go through all the different options that they provide. Yes, it's great to have a very strong password and 2FA enabled for logging in, but also you want to make sure that even if somebody logs in, they will have to jump over different security hurdles within your account in order to execute any kind of trades or to send funds away from your account. As I mentioned, all exchanges have different features, but most of them offer 2FA with a physical token. So if you decide, you can enable this. For example, also Binance provides you with a so-called phishing code. So you enter this within your account and you will receive emails from them with this phishing code, which will provide you an additional layer of security and make sure that whenever you receive an email from Binance, it's actually from them, and you'll be able to differentiate if somebody else is sending you emails acting as Binance and trying to phish you into providing them any kind of details. Also, some exchanges offer a freeze on any sending of funds. So for example, even if you enable 2FA for sending funds away, they will still put about, let's say, a week freeze or a 3-day freeze before they actually physically send the funds to the address that you have provided. This way, if you see some suspicious activity, you will be able to react on time, because also every exchange, whenever you're sending funds or you're doing any kind of transactions, they will inform you via an email and they will let you know that something is happening. Another cool feature that some exchanges have are so-called the master key. So you can lock pretty much everything within your account, any changes of any kind of settings. They will hide the funds, they will hide the money that you have within the account or the cryptocurrencies that you have. And only when you unlock it with the master key, you'll be able to see them. This means that if somebody logs into your account, they won't be able to see what's there inside, and they won't be able to manipulate many things. As I mentioned, it's great to just go into the settings of each of the platforms and play with the security measures and enable as many of them as possible. Most people will consider installing applications of their crypto exchanges on their personal device. While I'm not completely against this, you need to be aware that this is an additional security risk. Of course, anyone can steal your phone or they can physically attack you. And keep in mind that whenever you install the app on your phone, it's unlocked only via the PIN code or biometrics if you have enabled them. This means that the person will have it a little bit easier when it comes to logging in because they won't have to go through two-factor authentication. If you decide to go down this road and use your crypto exchanges on your phone, I would definitely recommend switching off altogether any kind of biometrics for unlocking your phone. This means that if somebody is ill-willed and attacks you, they won't be able to log in directly to your crypto exchange. A second thing that you need to consider is within each of the apps to disable any kind of possibility to send funds away from your crypto exchange. So this way you'll be able to actively manage your positions, trade, buy and sell cryptocurrencies, but also if you lose your phone or somebody steals it, they won't be able to transfer away funds from your account. Hardware wallets are generally considered the safest way to store your cryptocurrencies. What exactly is a hardware wallet? This is a device that stores your cryptocurrencies offline on the actual device. They usually look something like a physical 2FA device with a display and with a couple of buttons. Different wallets have different features and interfaces. I would strongly recommend do your own research and check if the type of brand that you choose can store all of your cryptocurrencies, because there are some differences, and although the lists of cryptocurrencies that these wallets support expand all the time, it might be the situation that your cryptocurrencies that you have decided to buy are not on the list yet. I would also strongly recommend not to buy just one hardware wallet, but a couple of them, because it's the safest way, but we don't live in a perfect world and we're never ever like 100% safe. For example, recently Ledger, one of the bigger brands that provides hardware wallets, their database got hacked through social engineering. So the personal data of thousands of their clients got leaked, and a lot of them started receiving emails that, I know where you live and I'm gonna break into your home, I'm gonna steal your cryptocurrencies, so send me this amount or that amount. And the way you can protect yourself from this, we're going to discuss in the next video. But yeah, this is a security risk that you need to consider. Once you have decided which kind of hardware wallet you want to choose, make sure to order it only from their official website. Never ever order a hardware wallet from any other place, and never consider buying it secondhand because it might be unlocked and somebody else might have access to it. When you go through the steps of ordering, I think it's a very good idea to give a different address than the address that you're actually going to store the hardware wallet. As I mentioned in the Ledger hack, there was a lot of data that got breached, and the people that ordered their ledgers on the addresses that they actually store them, I'm pretty sure they had a lot of anxiety. You can use a PO box if you have one, or maybe your business address, and just send the package to that address and store it somewhere else. Also, once the package arrives, check if it's properly sealed. Usually all kinds of hardware wallets, they have these special signs and markers that show that they're properly sealed, and if you see any kind of cracks or that the device has been opened, just directly return it, and do this before storing any kind of cryptocurrencies because the device might be compromised. As I mentioned, the best option will be to order different kind of devices. Even within the same brand, they offer different devices with different capabilities. So do your own research and based on your budget, order different hardware wallets and diversify your portfolio within them so you lower your risk. Once you have decided which kind of hardware wallet you want to choose, make sure to order it only from their official website. Never ever order a hardware wallet from any other place, and never consider buying it secondhand because it might be unlocked and somebody else might have access to it. When you go through the steps of ordering, I think it's a very good idea to give a different address than the address that you're actually going to store the hardware wallet. As I mentioned in the ledger hack, there was a lot of data that got breached, and the people that ordered their ledgers on the addresses that they actually store them, I'm pretty sure they had a lot of anxiety. You can use a PO box if you have one, or maybe your business address, and just send the package to that address and store it somewhere else. Also, once the package arrives, check if it's properly sealed. Usually all kinds of hardware wallets, they have these special signs and markers that show that they're properly sealed. And if you see any kind of cracks or that the device has been opened, just directly return it, and do this before storing any kind of cryptocurrencies, because the device might be compromised. As I mentioned, the best option will be to order different kind of devices. Even within the same brand, they offer different devices with different capabilities. So do your own research, and based on your budget, order different hardware wallets, and diversify your portfolio within them so you lower your risk. Once you have your hardware wallet and you go through the steps of activating it, there are two very important things that you need to consider. First of all the devices are locked with a PIN code, and make sure that you use all the available numbers that they provide as a PIN code. And of course, never ever use simple to guess numbers, like for example your birthday or some important dates in your life. Just choose random set of numbers and remember them. I would strongly recommend not to write them down. This is one of those things that you don't want anyone to know, so you will need to lower the risk as much as possible. And together with your recovery email password and also with your password manager password, I would advise that these are one of the things that you just need to remember. Another very important step of the activation process of a hardware device is the recovery phrases. You will be asked to write down 24 random words, and these will be your recovery phrases. So basically, whoever has this, they can replicate your device even if they don't have physical access to your own device. As you can imagine, this is extremely valuable information, and you need to make sure that these are even more secure than your actual physical ledger. A rule of thumb is to never store the phrases together with the actual hardware wallet. Just store the phrases somewhere secure. Maybe even consider hiring an external safe or something, and keep them, because you'll need to keep this for the years to come. You know, maybe if you're into cryptocurrencies for the long run, you'll store these cryptocurrencies on your hardware wallets for 10, 20, 30 years. So make sure you write them down on a piece of paper that will last long, and maybe even laminate it, or store it in a way that it will be protected from any kind of things that might happen in this period. Offline security is as important as online security and good digital hygiene. In this section, we're going to look into some basic principles that you can follow. And most of us live in safe countries, so we don't have quite often the case where we get robbed or broken into our home, but there are still cases that this happens, and there are definitely things that you can do to protect yourself. The first thing that I want to discuss is not related directly to your assets, but to your private data. And especially when it comes to handling documents like, for example, contracts or letters or any other kind of document that might contain personal data in its own paper. Of course, the contracts and documents that you actually use are stored probably at home, somewhere safe, but there are a lot of documents that have already expired, like old contracts and stuff. And the best way to manage those is to just destroy them. Every 6 months or a year maybe, just go through everything and see what is important to you and what is not, and what you can get rid of. The best way, obviously, to destroy documents is through a shredder, but if you don't have access to one, you can also burn the documents or just rip them in very little pieces and make sure, especially where there is personal data, that it's not visible to anyone. Also, whenever you're transporting personal documents, you should treat them as money. You wouldn't just leave your money in the car because somebody might break into it and steal them. Well, with data, it's even easier. If you leave those documents open in the car or maybe in your office, on your desk or anywhere, there might be somebody that will just take a picture of them and later use them against you. The same goes if you're going out with a friend or with somebody, and if you're sitting on a restaurant or somewhere outside, just make sure that these documents that you have on you are safe and they're not just easy to access whenever you're not on the table, or just simply don't leave them unattended. Home security is also something very important. This is our home. We want to feel safe in it. And I have to tell you that in my lifetime, I had 2 times when people broke into my apartment, and both times I was living on the first floor. So the first obvious advice I can give you is to avoid living in the first or second floor of an apartment building, because logically this is the easiest places where the thieves will actually hit first, because they have the fastest escape route. Also, before buying or renting an apartment, just research the neighborhood. Is it overall a safe neighborhood? And you can go the extra mile, maybe if you find a nice building next to a different location, like a bank or some kind of an office building where there's actual physical security in that building, or maybe it's somewhere around an embassy. This is also usually considered one of the safest areas in every city. At home, you can obviously add additional layers of security by making sure that you have different kind of locks. I cannot advise you on what kind of locks to buy, of course, but you can also buy a different safe where you can at home store your most important things, like, for example, valuables, cash, maybe documents, and also your hardware wallets. You can make your home even more secure by adding video surveillance or paying a third-party company to actually monitor your home, and whenever the alarm gets triggered, they respond. If you're a student and you have roommates, maybe in your dormitory, or you're just sharing a house, just make sure that you avoid storing any kind of valuable data and also money or hardware wallets in that place, because in these places there are a lot of people coming and going, and you don't know most of them very well, so there's definitely a risk there. And I've heard plenty of stories about students that have had their things stolen. I think it's the best way to store these assets that you have in a different location, maybe at your parents' house, or maybe renting a safe somewhere else, just to make sure that you don't have any additional risks. Another thing that not many people consider is what happens if you get fired from your work. Basically, we all nowadays have laptops and we mostly work from home, but what if your employer decides to terminate your contract? And if you have very important data on this work laptop, you'll suddenly lose complete access to it. So make sure you don't store any kind of passwords or important files to you, or at least you have a copy in your private computer, so that if this thing happens, you're not locked out of your accounts. And don't forget that your employer will actually have access to your data, so this is another risk that you need to consider. Whenever you're traveling, it's always a good idea to be a little bit more cautious. And when I say traveling, I don't only mean traveling internationally, but also if you're using the subway to get to work and it's rush hour, it can get pretty crowded and you might be an easy victim for a pickpocketer. I personally have this habit that I constantly check where my phone, my wallet, and my keys are, and I try to store them in pockets with zippers or with some kind of locks. And if I'm in some place that it's overcrowded and it's new for me, it might be a bar with some friends, or just a new location at an event, I just try to have all my documents really close to me. So, for example, I'll put them in the front pocket of my jeans, not in the back, not in the jacket. Or if I'm wearing an actual jacket and if I have an internal pocket, I'll just put those in there and I'll never take it off and leave it somewhere. Whenever you're traveling internationally, just make sure you do good research about the location and how safe it is. And it's always a good idea to leave your passport at your hotel and just have a photocopy of it and whatever very important things you have except for money. So for example, other type of IDs or keys or something, just make sure you really keep them close to you. And I would strongly recommend never ever to have your hardware wallets on your key holders, just because it makes it that much easier for people to steal them. If the place that you visit is really considered unsafe, I would recommend to turn off your biometrics unlocking on your phone, because it's quite easy somebody to knock you out and just use your fingerprint or your face recognition to unlock your phone, and from there you have made it pretty easy for this person to access everything in your life. As I mentioned in the previous video, biometrics are a security risk. So if you want to, you can disable them altogether, not only in locations that you feel unsafe. You can use a very long and strong PIN code and also avoid those kind of things that you draw on your screen because they're quite easy to guess to. And when you're entering your PIN code in your phone and to unlock it, make sure that there's nobody around you, or if you're in a public place, just try to do it privately, because nowadays we have quite a big screen on the phone and it's quite easy from someone, even from a distance, to actually see what you're typing and memorize your PIN code. Of course, an obvious advice is to never ever leave your phone unattended. These devices have become quite important to us and we have quite a lot of valuable information on them. So never ever, just the way that you're not going to leave any money on the table, don't leave your phone unattended. Another very important thing when it comes to your crypto investments and portfolio, don't ever discuss this with anybody, especially if you have some kind of a following on TikTok or Instagram or a YouTube channel. I've seen so many people just bragging about their gains for today or for yesterday and showing up their portfolio. They are just begging hackers to come and try to attack them and steal from them. Just make sure you're low profile, don't discuss any kind of investments or what kind of cryptocurrencies you hold or how you store them or where you hold your keys and all of these things. No, just keep a low profile. If you need to discuss it, just make sure you do it with your most trusted people. And I think if you just follow those principles, everything should be fine. In general, there's a lot of envy out there, and even just for fun, some hackers might try to scam you, especially if you're obnoxious and you are in your face as a behavior. So yeah, try to avoid this.